How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to be breaking down and ranking the 2022 Pittsburgh Pirates infielders based on their performance in 2022, ranging from all the way at the top, where the all-star category is, all the way through the dog water category, which is the worst possible option on this tier list. Leading off the video, we have none other than infield prospect Ji-hwan Bae, and based on his performance, I'm going to put him in the decent category. He had a very small sample size of starts in the major leagues with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He split time between center field and second base, and offensively he put up a really solid stat line. Ji-hwan Bae hit a .333 batting average with a .405 on base percentage, a .424 slugging, drove in 6 RBIs, stole 3 bases, and was an absolute speed demon on the base paths. Next on the list is going to be our first disappointing player, Diego Castillo. He just didn't have a great season, especially coming here from the New York Yankees in the Jameson Taillon trade. Next on the list is going to be none other than Rodolfo Castro, and compared to the rest of the players on this tier list, he had a pretty good season overall. As a fielder, he was pretty solid. He split time between second base, shortstop, and third base throughout the season, and he showed some pretty solid power upside. I can see this kid slotting in at second base moving forward for this team. Next on the list is going to be none other than Yu Chang, and unfortunately for him, he's going to go into the dog water category. After being acquired from the Cleveland Guardians, he really didn't do all that much at the major league level, and there's a reason why he's no longer on the major league squad. Next on the list is going to be another disappointing player in first baseman Michael Chavis, and unfortunately for him, he really didn't have that great of a season. Sure, he was 4th on the team in home runs with 14, but he had massive strikeout issues at the plate and had really awful batting splits. I really hope that he can turn himself around at some point. Next up is going to be none other than first baseman slash catcher Zach Collins, and unfortunately for him, he's going to go into the dog water category. He wasn't able to get anything going offensively at the plate for the Pirates after coming here from the Chicago White Sox. Next on the list is going to be none other than future superstar O'Neal Cruz. He's going to go into the good category based on his performance this season. Sliding in at shortstop for most of the season, O'Neal Cruz had a pretty good year for the most part. On the season, O'Neal Cruz slashed a .233 batting average, a .294 on base percentage, a .450 slugging, hit 17 home runs, drove in 54 RBIs, stole 11 bases, and had a 106 WRC+. Not the best of seasons, but definitely not the worst. On the bright side, he did finish second in home runs on the team behind Brian Reynolds. Moving forward, this kid's going to be an absolute superstar in the making. Not many players are 6'7" playing shortstop, and he's excelling in a major way. And above all, he's an absolute clubhouse presence and a fan favorite of this team. Next on the list is going to be none other than catcher Jason DeLay, and honestly, compared to most catchers on this list, he is going to go in the decent category behind Ji-hwan Bae. It wasn't an exceptional year for him, but he was pretty serviceable as a fielding catcher and had below average batting stats. Next up is none other than Jose Godoy, and unfortunately for him, he was just absolutely terrible with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Next up is going to be none other than the man, the myth, the legend himself, Ke'Bryan Hayes, easily going into the all-star category. By far one of the best fielding third basemen in all of baseball. Could have easily won a gold glove in the National League, but unfortunately Nolan Arenado stole that from him. Ke'Bryan Hayes had a pretty solid season overall. He slashed a .244 batting average, a .314 on base percentage, a .345 slugging, hit 7 home runs, drove in 41 RBIs, stole 20 bases, and had an 88 WRC+. So offensively it wasn't an amazing season, but for Ke'Bryan Hayes, who's not really known for hitting as much compared to fielding, as a fielder, absolutely exceptional work from Ke'Bryan Hayes. He's going to continue to lock down the third base position. Next up is veteran catcher Tyler Heineman, and honestly, he's going to go into the decent category. As a veteran journeyman, he had a pretty okay season defensively. Offensively, he really wasn't that good, but that's not what he's known for. Next up is catcher Andrew Knapp, and unfortunately for him, Andrew Knapp just did not have a good outing with the Pittsburgh Pirates. Next up is going to be Tucupita Marcano, the utility man, and honestly, he had a pretty solid season. He started most of his games at second base, so we're going to be putting him in the top portion of the decent category. Next on the list is going to be none other than veteran infielder Kevin Newman. And honestly, compared to Kevin Newman's past couple seasons, he had a much improved season overall. In 2022, Kevin Newman split time between second base and shortstop, and offensively he improved a lot, hitting a .274 batting average, a .316 on-base percentage, and a .372 slugging. And defensively, he's still as good as he has always been. Unfortunately, I don't see Newman as a long-term piece on the team, so don't be surprised if he gets traded by the organization at some point this offseason. Next up is going to be Kevin Padlo, and he had a very brief stint with the Pittsburgh Pirates, played a handful of games at third base and a couple other spots in the infield. I'm just going to throw him at the lower echelon of the decent category. Next up is going to be infielder Hoy Park, and unfortunately for him, he's going to go into the disappointing category. I was expecting a lot more out of him after he was acquired from the New York Yankees in the Clay Holmes trade. Next up is going to be one of my favorite prospects in our organization, shortstop Liover Peguero, and he's going to go into the upper echelon of the decent category. He only played one game for the Pittsburgh Pirates, but in his first career game against the San Francisco Giants, he acquired his first hit and his first walk. Moving forward, I really hope that he can split time at shortstop, at second base, potentially in the outfield. I just know that he's going to be a very solid player for this ball club moving forward. Next up is going to be veteran catcher Michael Perez, and unfortunately, he's going to go in the dog water category. One of the only qualities that Michael Perez really had was that he was a solid veteran presence on the team. Other than that, he wasn't an exceptional hitter at the plate at all. He was pretty abysmal. Next up on the list is going to be none other than veteran catcher Roberto Perez, and he is going to go in the upper echelon of the decent category. Compared to all of the catchers on this tier list, he was by far the best one before his injury. Offensively, he had a much improved season compared to seasons prior. He was able to get on base a lot more, hit for solid contact, had some pop in his bat, and of course, he's known as one of the best fielding catchers in all of baseball. A lot of our pitchers really enjoyed pitching to him, especially the young guys. The young guys learned a lot from this veteran catcher, and I hope that we can re-sign him on a one-year deal. Next up is probably the worst player on the 2022 Pittsburgh Pirates roster, Yoshi Tsutsugo, easily gonna go in the dog water category. Having him slot in as our first baseman in DH for a little bit of the season was just dreadful to watch. Next on the list, we have none other than infielder Cole Tucker. Unfortunately for him, he is gonna go in the disappointing category. As a former first-round pick by the Pittsburgh Pirates, Cole Tucker has not lived up to the hype whatsoever. He's been given multiple chances to prove himself at the major league level, hasn't been able to hit well for contact, barely gets on base, has literally no power whatsoever. In spring training, he showed glimmers of hope, but unfortunately that didn't translate to the regular season, and as a result, he was DFA'd and claimed by the Arizona Diamondbacks. Next up is going to be super utility player Josh Van Meter, and unfortunately for him, he is going to go in the dog water category. Offensively, Josh Van Meter was just not good. I'm not sure why we had to start him for multiple games. And finally, we have the man, the myth, the big poppy himself, Daniel Vogelbach, and he's going to go in the lower echelon of the good category. With the Pittsburgh Pirates, he showed solid power potential. He was a great veteran leader for this team, a great clubhouse presence, and a fan favorite. And based on his performance in 2022, he was traded to the New York Mets in exchange for right-handed pitcher Colin Holderman. And there you have it, the 2022 Pittsburgh Pirates infielders, ranked by yours truly. And a lot of the players that you see on this list are not going to be on the team in 2022. Thank you guys so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed. Please consider leaving a like on the video if you want more of this kind of content in the future. Comment down below if you agree with my rankings, and be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell for notifications that we don't miss any future uploads coming up on the channel. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end, and with that being said, let's go Bucs.